So a couple of things I wanted to discuss is the company that I represent, which is Stadium Properties. I want to talk a little bit about how our 2010 year ended and just some of the trends that I'm seeing that's going out in the market currently right now. Stadium Properties is the management company that oversees 13 self-storage properties under the name Dollar Self Storage. We're in 3 states, Arizona, Nevada, and California. The majority of our holdings are 9 properties that are in the Tucson, Phoenix area. And even within the Phoenix area, we represent probably somewhere between about 6 or 7 of the cities, the major cities, suburbs of Phoenix area. In the beginning of 2010 in January, we came out of 2009, like maybe most of you, in a very, very poor position. We were somewhere around 73% occupancy. The economic occupancy was just slightly lower than that. We had to make some real critical decisions business-wise to be able to see if we couldn't jumpstart the businesses, not just in the state of Arizona, but collectively throughout our company. One of the things that we fundamentally had to get involved in that we never had to do, because most of our properties are well positioned. Out of the 13 properties, we have 2 that are what you would call secondary streets, maybe a Class B or a Class C type property. The rest of them are sitting on main streets. We held our prices for as long as we could for the last 4 trailing years, and it had always done extremely well. But what had happened is as we start to compete with these one-offs, these mom and pops or what have you, they start needling you and driving the price down. Why? Because they don't know how to deal with what's going on in the market. So we made it kind of a decision. Dollar self-storage, let's offer the first month for $1. Does that sound familiar? The other thing we did is we took a look at a couple of properties that were struggling in those secondary markets, and we took a look at the rack rates, which typically you don't want to adjust those rack rates. We had to make that tough decision because we were anywhere between 15 and 20% higher than our competitors. So we lowered the rack rates, we turned on the dollar move-in, and over probably the next 3 to 4 months, we started to offer a tremendous amount of concessions. We started to meet and beat a lot of our competitors' prices, and so we just jumped into the game as much as we possibly could. What happened is as we started to kind of progress, having that advantage of being in a well-located area started to really turn the tables. We started to actually grow in occupancy. We finished the year at 81.6% occupancy with about a 74% economic occupancy. So we had to give up a lot to get us to move. But one of the advantages, it's funny, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. Before I got into storage, one of the things I wanted to do was transition out of retail. I had been in retail for a number of years, and one of the companies I worked for was Price Club, which became Price Costco and then eventually Costco. And it's very difficult to transition out of retail and get into another business. But once I had done that, I found storage, ended up enjoying it, really enjoyed the different aspects of construction and acquisitions and so on and so forth. But what I learned about 2 to 3 years ago is retail became self-storage. Self-storage became retail. And so some of the fundamentals now, as I look back and I analyze the business, it's location, it's pricing, it's being, watching what your competition's doing, and also hiring the right people. I've got a property that's in Henderson, Nevada, and it's been bumping along the ground at probably about 68, 69% occupancy for probably about the last 2 to 3 years. I got lucky enough to get somebody who had prior experience in self-storage, moved in as a couple, and now we're sitting at 90%. And now we're pushing rates. It's one of the other things that we've been able to do as well too. When we lowered our rack rates, we raised the occupancy, and now we're getting into a rotation of every 9 months. We're averaging anywhere between people that have been in storage with us for 9 months. We're pushing an average of 7% increases on most of our tenants. Now we are selective in the way that we do that, based on whether they're businesses, if they have multiple units, whatever the case may be. But it's one of the things that has really made a huge impact to our overall revenue. A couple of the other things too that I don't know if a lot of you have gotten the trade magazine, the Mini Messenger, but if you do have a chance to take a look at the article, there's an article on Arizona, and one of the things that they say, since the majority of our properties are there, is that since 2007, they're only second to Nevada, or basically Las Vegas, in the amount of population that's coming into the state. So there's 300,000 people that have been coming into the state since 2007. And they're only at 9% unemployment, which is lower than the national average. The other thing is a lot of companies are leaving here, the state of California, and traveling to Arizona to start a business while keeping their trade routes between Los Angeles and Southern California open to be able to cut costs. So the future in that state, in my estimation, and some of the trends that we've seen, is very promising. Right now, if you're on the edge of any kind of progress, you're going to see a very difficult time because the occupancy is extremely low. If you're in an infill area and you've got high density population, usually you're able to have some kind of stability, and we anticipate some strong stability going forward. Our length of stay is averaging around 11.3%, so that's about off from about a month or so for the last 2 to 3 years, but it hasn't changed as much as we thought it had or would have. So we're encouraged by that. That's essentially what's going on currently right now. We finished the year at a 3.6% revenue increase. That's same store, that's mature, non-mature, everybody thrown in together. You know, really we have 3 properties that are probably within inside of 3 years. They are experiencing some pretty sizable growth, but the more mature properties are anywhere, you know, between 2 to 1.5% in terms of overall revenue growth. So what I look forward to, with the exception of February, I don't know if all of you are experiencing the February that we're experiencing, but it seems slow right now. Is that the general consensus? Why that is, I'm not sure. January was kind of okay for us. The revenue was up. I anticipate that 2011 will pretty much be a stabilizing year. We're hoping to drive some occupancy and maybe get a little bit extra revenue. So other than that, I'm open for any questions if anybody has any.
Hey, Mark, how much of your facilities are climate controlled? What percentage of your units?
We're probably looking at about 40%.
40%? Is that mostly occupied?
They're not climate controlled. The big difference, as I'm learning in Arizona, is air conditioning. So they're air conditioned.
Straight air conditioning.
It's straight air conditioning. And apparently that seems to make a difference in the market. And people really clarify that, especially winter visitors. One of the other trends we're seeing is a lot of Canadians are now starting to actually purchase homes in parts of Arizona as opposed to renting them. The values have dropped so badly, and the fact of what's going on south of the border into Mexico, you don't have Canadians traveling down there to the Yucatan Peninsula and so on and so forth. They're staying put, and I think that's why some of the occupancies in the hotels here in California and some of the other places are starting to rise, especially in Hawaii. That's my humble opinion. So that might bode well for us in the long run. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.